Okay, the format of the meeting is that on alternate weeks there is a step reading or a step share. However, when there is a fifth Sunday in the month, the reading is a topic meeting. This week is a step share, and Michael kindly come along to share on step 9. With that, I'll hand over to Michael to share his experience, strength and hope.
Thank you, Bill. My name's Michael, I'm an addict. It's good to see it's such a small meeting. I was saying to Bill before, because the book was out and I thought, like, maybe we read it or something, and I'm going to try and, share the actual practical side of this step rather than like theorise about it, because I sort of know the literature and I can talk about what's in the book. I'd rather talk about my experience of this step rather than, what page 136 says or something, so I was thinking about, the first time I tried to make amends without working the steps. And I was 3 weeks clean. I'd been I could come out of treatment for the day because my uncle had passed away, so I was going to a funeral up in Kentish Town. There's a real good friend of mine, and I caused so much harm. We went about a bit together. I turned her brother onto heroin. I turned her sister onto heroin. I got her sister doing drug runs from different countries and stuff like that. So I really harmed this girl, and she was a real good friend of mine. So I thought after 3 weeks it would be a good idea to go and say sorry to her. And she told me to fuck off. She worked up in a doctor's surgery up in Kentish Town. I walked in, as soon as she seen me, she said, "Look, fuck off, get away from me." And and I would have done the same as well. Didn't really, sort of understand about, that I didn't know the exact nature of my wrongs for starters. So how could I go and make amends for the wrongs that I'd done when I didn't even know the exact nature of them? And to do that, I needed to work the first 8 steps as well. And you try not to go back over other steps, but step 5 is really, to do a thorough and trust in step 5 in this process to get to a step 9 is totally, for me, paramount. It's the thing that, I needed to do because, I can and still do blame. I can make anything right in my head. I can make anything right. I can justify my behaviour till the cows come home, and that's why I need a sponsor. I need friends that are honest with me, and I need people in the fellowship that haven't got my best interests will let me know where I've gone wrong as well, and and when I first come around, I sort of, I laugh about it now. I sort of get paid to take other people's inventory, which is not a bad job. Do you know what I mean? And and I learned to do that very early on in recovery. I'd sit in meetings and judge the hell out of people, and think, well, if I, when I was 18 months clean, I had this program down. I knew everything about it, and I wouldn't be doing that, and I wouldn't be doing that. And if I was as sick as him, I'd be using, and and how would you do? And through this process, especially through the process of doing step 9, really, for the best part, most of the time, I don't judge, I'm in no position to judge anyone because of, with reflection of my life, pre-recovery and post getting clean, I'm capable, I'm human and I can make mistakes, and I do make mistakes, and I suppose it's really been the last year, really, that I've kind of come to a place where I'm not that hard on myself about it, which is not bad. You know what I mean? I don't beat the shit out of myself when I, make a mistake, and and I suppose that's learning to have empathy. Do you know what I mean? And that's a real essence of step 9. To try and empathise with the other person or the other, institution or whatever it is, that for me is, you know, saying sorry, you know, it's just a word. Do you know what I mean? I've said it all, you know, so, Mum, I'm really sorry, it's never going to happen again, you know, just can you lend me 20 quid, please? I'm sorry. You know, and so it don't carry much weight. And, you know, just to refer back, it says clean time matters, you know, clean time's important. It was no good for me to go when I was 3 weeks clean, going to try and make amends, you know, or 8 months clean, you know, going to try and make amends for harms that I've done for the last 30 years or last 20 years. And, do you know what I mean? So, and this is just my experience, you know, whatever you do, your sponsor's your business. And when I come to this step, you know, I had the willingness, you know, most part to do this. You know, I've done 2 step 8 lists, and I've come to that process in different ways. You know, I've done it through the Step Working Guide, and I've done it through some other literature. You know, and I was looking at the step 9 yesterday, and you know, looking at the ticks. 90%, 85% of what that are on the list have been done. You know, there's been a tick through it, and you know, there's been some real magical moments. There's been some real difficult times doing it. You know, just to share my experience, I'm going to go into my experience of doing these and how they've worked. You know, and the ones that I still find difficult. There's indirect amends that I can't make. You know, there's houses I've burgled. You know, there's people that, you know, I've had over when I've been out, you know, doing what I was doing, and these are like sort of nameless, not faceless as in they're nobody, but you know, they could be sat next to me on the bus and I wouldn't know who they were. You know, so that's an indirect amends. How could I do that? Well, firstly, stop burgling people's houses. You know, it'd be a good place to start. And it's funny, in early recovery, I got the sort of the feeling of empathy, because I remember, you know, come on God, test me with something, and someone burgled my house. You know, so I truly got to feel like what it was like to be exploited and exposed and violated, you know. And not my house, I was living in a dry house, but, you know. Can you imagine that? Someone in a dry house robbing someone. Oh, how naive I was. And another, it was really special. My mum and dad got married on Marylebone Road, just down the road. I'm from round here, and they celebrated, well, they about 44 years or so now, but on their 40th years, they went and renewed their vows in the church, just opposite Madame Tussauds. And I was in this process at the time, and I went back there a couple of months later, and it was all locked up. You know, it's a beautiful church, gold-plated things and all that, so they lock it, obviously, because, you know, there's people like us running about this planet, and or people like me anyway, I can't speak for you. And so I was having, and I asked this guy, I don't know the correct word, but he was like the caretaker of the church, and I said, oh, my mum and dad got married here, you know, it's like, so I'd like to pray. So he opened the church, so I had the church to myself. It was really nice, real quiet, special time. And I just got on my knees and sort of, you know, asked for forgiveness and you know, just to, you know, sort of put out love there in you know, into the world, you know, not to do that, and sort of really sort of sat silently and still for a while and try and felt how these people, these victims of my behaviour would feel. And you know, that was a really special moment in the Step 9 process. You know, magical, making a Step 9 direct amends with my mum. I took her out to her favourite restaurant and we sat down and you know, was just talking about whatever, the weather and football and this, that and the other. And then, you know, I found a moment and I said, well, you know, I'd like to make amends to you, you know, for all the harm I've done. And I spoke about how self-centred, self-seeking, you know, inconsiderate, faultless I was, you know, and try to really, you know, and then I sort of said, this is how I think you would have felt. And then, after I'd done that, I invited the feedback. I said, can you actually tell me how you did feel? You know, which, you know, I work in a field now, and, you know, a client was asking me the other day, they said, so how do you detach, you know, how do you not take people's baggage home? And, you know, and I've kind of learned, I've been working there, you know, in that field for a few years, and I've sort of learned to detach what's mine and what's the client's. But what does me every time is when a mum phones up. Every time it just hits me, because it really makes apparent the damage that I've done to my parents. You know, when they're phoning up going, please look after my son, he's going to die. You know, I think, my God, you know, that was my mum. My mum was actually at the door of that place 7 years ago, bringing me some cigarettes up with my sister. It was like Domino's. My sister went, please let this be the last time. And then my mum went, and then I went, and it was like all just crying at the door, and I just fucking run back in there. And, you know, so I've really had sort of tangible things to empathise and feel how, you know, my mother felt, how these people felt. And, you know, financial amends. You know, I like spending money on me. You know, I had someone sharing in a meeting the other day, and he's going, yeah, you know, I'm 7 days clean, and I've worked it out. He said, you know, I get up in the morning, I just don't think about me. Fucking hell, I must be doing something wrong here, man. If I'm thinking about me, I'm thinking about what you think about me. And, you know, so, you know, making that financial amends of, like, you know, because I like these external things that are going to make me feel safe and good and clean and tidy, and new trainers and new holidays and new things, you know, shiny things and electronic things and things, you know. And some have been, actually, a big one's been by default, really. I got my flat in, you know, staying clean and going through. You know, pretty mental. Just to share quickly, I lived in a hostel in King's Cross from 14 months clean to about 3 years clean, in a hostel in King's Cross. Anyone knows what King's Cross is, and, you know, it was what it was, and which was pretty fucking mental. Me and one love lived next door to each other. He lived in the hostel. It's like full circle, wasn't it? And you know, so when I got my flat, I went on the electoral roll. Letters started coming through. They caught me. Do you know what I mean? I think if I'd have been about 4 weeks later, the 6 years would have passed or something, or whatever it was. But obviously, I didn't do the maths properly. So, you know, that's something, a financial amends I've been making every month for the last 3 years, 10 months, 50 quid a month standing order goes to the finance company or whatever, you know, collectors, debt collectors, and it'll be another couple of years and it'll be paid off, you know. But also, one of my ex-girlfriends, she was kind enough to put a rental car on her dad's credit card for me when I was using. It's a touch. Better than having a disabled badge in recovery. You don't have to pay no parking tickets or anything when it's on someone else's name. And so, you know, I remember, like, when we finished, you know, and we were serving up in this car, and all, me and my mate, and then when we thought, you know, I took it back to the car rental place, left a note on the windscreen saying, I'm no longer with blah blah, so if you want your money, I'll see you in court. And just left on the wipers and just went, you know what I mean? So I set up a standing order and paid this man back, you know, 50 quid a month I'll give him 500 quid back, and you know, I've made amends. I couldn't go to, you know, I wasn't a big shoplifter. You know, it wasn't my thing when I was using. You know, I did it, and, you know, what I liked to shoplift was from Marks and Spencer's. You know, I thought I was smart. I'd nick from Pantheon, walk down to the to Marble Arch, get the vouchers from Marble Arch, walk back to the Pantheon and then sell them in the line. So I didn't want to get 50%. I'd wait a couple more hours to get 100% of my money, go up with some, you're spending 40 quid cash, can you buy these? Because, and so that was the biggest place I shoplifted from. So to make amends for my shoplifting, I went in Marks and Spencer's and asked to speak to the manager, which was... He come down, this young guy, suited and booted, and I said, I didn't bang on about 12 steps or NA or anything. I said, look, I used to be a drug addict, and when I used to shoplift for Marks and Spencer's, and I can see him sort of looking for cameras, and sort of, you can see the guy thinking, his eyes are like fucking table tennis ball. He's gone, yeah, okay. And I said, I'd like to make amends for that. I said, what would you like me to do? And he said, well, whatever you do, Marks and Spencer supports it right now. Just carry on doing what you're doing. And I haven't shoplifted from Marx's. So, and I like my tree ripened mango out of there as well, so I continue to spend money in there. I had I went and made amends to this girl that I tried to make amends to 3 weeks clean, and I've made amends to her brother and sister as well, but it was really special with Beth, because, we had such a history, we was best friends, we was like brother and sister everywhere, and I really abused her. I lived abroad for a few years, and she'd come to the other side of the world, skint. And I knew, actually, her ex-partner's in recovery now, but she got really hurt by someone that used heroin. So she was, totally anti-heroin. She turned up, literally the other side of the world. And because she had nowhere to stay, and because, I was using at the time, she had to suffer me just using in front of her and stuff like that. And, and we sat down, and I just invited, again, I try to empathise with her. Own my wrongs, how faultless I was. I was so selfish. I didn't give a monkeys about anyone. And, and invited the feedback, which was difficult of her, because she told me what a fucking arsehole I was. How I made her feel. Because my mum was okay. She was going, it's all right, just carry on doing what you're doing, son. I love you. I'm proud of you. But which is quite easy to, accept. But when someone's going, yeah, you was a fucking arsehole. At points I wish you'd died. And this was from someone that cared about me, cared about me enough to be really honest with me, honest to the point where, other indirect amends is, I've set up a standing order for victim support. And God willing, that be for the rest of my life. Every month, a £5 goes out, that's it. £5 goes out every month to victim support. I don't know who it goes to, where it goes, just part of the amends system, I've made amends to the postman. I grew up around here. It's amazing, that when I sit in meetings now, there's about 10 of us, 11, 12 of us that are in recovery, with 2 years clean, 4 years clean. So, it's mental, having children, getting married, growing up, and I just think to myself, it just overwhelms me, it really does. And me and Paul, we was the first one out of our sort of peer group to come in here, and we really led by example. Me and Postman, not one love, he followed us in here, drove us mad. And I'm sure he drove you lot mad at all points, but we won't go into that. And and we led by example. Now we've got a meeting on the estate. We've got a meeting in the church where I was christened, just the other side of Euston. And I was speaking to me nan the other day and auntie and all that, and they was going, I made amends to them, which was really difficult, because I'd like to say, I've done a couple of step 5, and I'm not resentment free. I still carry resentments with them. Do you know what I mean? And but I made amends. It was a bit of but I'd done it to the best of my ability, and then they were saying, it's been really quiet around here. People ain't on the stairwells and all that. I said, yeah, because we're all bloody clean. You know, there was like a dozen of us, and we was just like, you know, I bought so much, you know, it's one of them estates that, you know, when you fart, everyone smells it. You know, everyone knows your business, or if they don't, they'll make it up anyway. And you know, it's a right prideful working class family that's, you know, on that. And the amount of shame that I brought to them, you know, that, you know, we're in the stairwell in the next block, smoking crack and injecting coke and, you know, smoking heroin and coke, crack and all that. And you know, I didn't consider, I'd go in there, you know, oh, I just got a sandwich in my pocket, cut some silver foil. I know these are old people, but, you know, they watch the bill and things like that, do you know what I mean? They kind of got some idea, you know, that I don't want this silver foil for this sandwich I'm making out I've got in my pocket. You know, and, yeah, it's another one that I haven't made is with my dad. You know, it just, you know, I'd love to say, you know, and he's the one on the, you know, when I do a resentment list, he's on the top of it every time. You know, and I've many, you know, I've made lots of indirect amends to him. You know, but I've never sat down and done a formal step 9 amends with the guy, and I'm saying that because, you know, I really want to. You know, I know the freedom that I've got from making these amends. You know, I said at the beginning, you know, gone through the list, and like 90% of them I've made. You know, with Beth, I needed to get a record. I played at this party, and I shame myself now, and they texted me, they said, we need Rod Stewart. Okay, so I didn't have Rod Stewart, I'm pleased to say. So I'm... You got Rod Stewart, didn't you, Bob?
I love Rod Stewart.
So I thought Beth would have Rod Stewart on vinyl. I phoned her up, and I went round there and borrowed her greatest hits, Rod Stewart greatest hits. You know. and just sat down and had a cup of tea with her, and her son was there and was just chatting. And I didn't feel uncomfortable. I didn't feel that she felt uncomfortable. You know, I used to see her, because we live in this area, before I'd done this process of step 9, and be on my bike or whatever, and I just, the shame inside, not the shame actually, the guilt that I felt because of the damage, you know. And I don't have that. I for the best part, I walk about with my head held high. You know, I give back to society. You know, it's you know. Sometimes the only amends we can make is help other recovering addicts. You know, and you know, I do that. You know, I do that willingly most times. You know, sometimes with you know, I was in a meeting yesterday, and I've gone there, and I thought, fucking, I'm sat in here driving me mad. People were talking about higher power and using words like cosmos and things. Cosmos. So, holiday company. We come to the conclusion that it's a cheap holiday company. And I'm thinking, what the fucking hell am I doing there? And like, if your higher powers are cosmos, good luck to you, man. And there was the next client from where I worked, and I thought it was my duty, because, you know, I think we're role models. You know, people with clean time, we're a role model for, you know, and that's, you know, not just being this perfect recovering addict, but sometimes showing where we've made ricks and stay clean as well. But you know, I wanted to go, but what kept me in there was that she was in there, and I didn't think it was a good message to get up, who was her key worker, halfway through a meeting and leave a meeting. You know, because if I've been to half a meeting, or if I'm stood outside a meeting, I'm not in a meeting. And if I'm not in a meeting, I ain't been to a meeting. You know, and this for me is where the magic happens. You know, I learnt early on, you know, amends to self. You know, I love this one. We harm lots of people, but most of all, we harmed ourselves. I can start giving back to Michael. And manipulate that literature anyhow I want. And, you know, but it's true, you know, I fucking damaged myself, you know. I didn't eat, I didn't I slept, sporadically. I think, I might have, I don't clean my clothes, sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. I stuck, I was doing a group a little while ago, and this guy, and he was defiant, he'd been through treatment loads of times, and he's gone, and cancer's done. I love myself. He sat in a crisis centre, for God's sake, and he's saying, I love myself. And I said, would you think an act of love, if someone harms themselves, cuts themselves, is that an act of self-love or self-hatred and pain and hurt? He said, well, you're pain and hurt. I said, well, wouldn't putting poison in your body every day an act of self-hatred? Do you know what I mean? It's, however it went in, down your throat, up your nose, in your arm, up your arse, whatever, and I fucking hated myself. I might have put a nice pair of trainers on. I had a suntan because I went abroad or whatever. But inside, I fucking despised myself. And by staying clean, and I'm not going to try and shame you if you're going to go out and have a cigarette afterwards, but by sitting in a meeting for an hour and a half is an act of love. Outside, smoking a snout ain't an act of love. This is where I need to hear. This is where I might hear the thing that might save my life. Because if you're like me, if I'm outside, I'm talking about someone else, or talking about me, my illness, and and just staying through this, through thick and thin. Staying in the process, praying. Something that I've done religiously, but not religiously, if you know what I mean, is prayed. Taking care of myself, when I'm tired, going home and going to bed, not having 3 Red Bulls. And I'm not trying to say if I've gone, I've had to use, I think, everything that I can think of without picking a drug up in recovery to stay clean. I've used cigarettes, I've used food, I've used shopping, I've used women, I've used sex, I've used masturbation, I've used not talking to people, I've used fucking spitting all over people, I've used so many different things, I've gone to any lengths not to use, trust me, do you know what I mean, and those things come out in the wash for me, they've come out in the wash, I can still pick up things to change the way I feel, but, I don't pick up the same thing I picked up when I was a year clean or when I was 5 years clean. It's a process. It's absolutely a process. This, for me, it's I ain't sort of, I ain't worked through the 12 steps, and sort of, hallelujah, I've become this sort of, perfect human being. God, I've done another step 8 list in recovery, and the best part of it was in recovery, and and I strive, I strive to, heal myself. I strive to heal the world I live in, I was going through something a couple of weeks ago, and Frankie said something to me, and this is just my interpretation. He's gone, you're really loved by a lot of people. And what I understood him, what I took that was he was saying he felt like I didn't feel loved by a lot of people. And I walked away and I thought, do you know what? I know that. I put a lot into this fellowship because whatever, I couldn't put in. But if I'd done it 24/7, I still wouldn't be able to put in what it's given me. Do you know what I mean? And I deserve that. It's not with arrogance. I deserve the kindness and consideration I get from my fellow addicts because I've given consideration and love. Amends to NA, doing service. And all that stuff, and it's all healing. It's healing not just to me, but to the world. Before I'd done a formal step 9 with my mum, I ended up with a restaurant in Soho. I don't know how. Do you know what I mean? My dad's mate gave me a restaurant in Soho, so I've eaten in McDonald's or whatever, and I'm running this restaurant, and I was driving down with my mum one day, and she's gone, I'm really proud of you, Michael. And I knew what she was talking about, what I was doing for a living. And I just stopped the car and just burst out crying, and I said, this is what it's about, do you know what I mean? You know, that first time, I think, not that I can remember since birth, but I felt an unconditional flow either way. You know, there wasn't no agenda, there wasn't no angle, you know, and for the best part, that's what I feel with NA, do you know what I mean? I get pissed off with people get pissed off with me, I piss people off, they piss me off. Like, what happens in here is sort of a parallel to what happens in the outside world, I think. You know, it's just a condensed, shrunken version, you know. So, of course, you know, we jar each other and, you know, hug each other and go like that. You know, or maybe that's just me. Everyone else is really well. And, but, you know, it's beautiful, you know. I strive, you know, to do this stuff, you know. My ambition, you know, is to stay clean for the rest of my life. That's my ambition, do you know what I mean? And what this programme's showing me, that, you know, with this I can do it, because I can do it for a day. Once I've got a day, I've got 7 days on the spin, so I've got a week, and then once I've got a week, I had reference point, I can get another week and another, you know, it's all reference points. When I first come in, I didn't know. I you know, I thought I knew, I judged you all, do you know what I mean? I didn't know, I you know, I knew how to use, I knew how to, you know, I thought about it earlier, I didn't share it, you know. 8 years ago, I was at that cash point up the stairs by Marx's, robbing someone at knife point. Robbing a man, got his money, went over there and robbed a woman over on the other side by, you know, Prezzo at knife point. You know, that's what I'd done. You know, that's what had happened. You know, the days of standing on the speaker, shouting mental out, you know, had finished in the late 80s. You know, and it ended up living like that, you know, and, you know, more than that, I fucking hated myself, as I said, you know, for doing that stuff. Couldn't even kill myself. You know, I tried, but it was just pathetic. You know what I mean? And, you know, I love life. I know what it's like. I just end on this, you know. You know, this is the first part, so I've gone to the second part now. That was the warm-up. Roll my sleeves up now, I'm getting going. And, yeah, just, you know, I know, you know, I look around the room and I can see, you know, there's people in here that probably can't stop using. You know, wake up in the morning with the greatest intentions not to use. You know, and I feel that pain because it's mine, do you know what I mean? That's my pain. I know what it's like, waking up not wanting to use and using. You know, and what an amends to myself, you know, embracing this programme. You know, I've surrendered. Do you know what I mean? What do I have to do? You know, apart from wearing an Arsenal shirt, I'd do anything. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's you know, it is that, you know, the steps to our solution. You know, I need, if I, you know, I'm fucking off key, do you know what I mean? The last sort of 24 hours, last few weeks actually, I've been in it in my head, like, you know, and I've been really needing going, love me, put your arm around me, love me, I feel frightened. And, you know, part of it was to come in here as well, do you know what I mean? And, you know, and despite, you know, that stuff that goes on in my, you know, if I don't do the steps, I'll fucking jump through. Like, you know, people used me. I used to jump through windows. You know, I used to inject coke and think people were trying to kill me and jump out of windows and break my feet and sever my thumb and, you know, pull fucking like, where's Michael? And the next thing I'd be in a bathroom, pulling all the panels off, like blocking myself in the bathroom because people were in the house trying to kill me or whatever. I don't know what funky stuff was going on in my head. And, you know, without the steps, you know, I'm capable of that shit without a drug, trust me, do you know what I mean? I can fucking go there, you know. And, you know, the steps are the solution for me not killing myself, you know, absolutely. Or, you know, being sectioned, you know. And, you know, if you haven't heard anything of, you know, worthwhile, you obviously haven't been listening. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Michael. The meeting is raised hand sharing, and I believe Lindsay's going to be the tutor this week. Please be mindful of your sharing time. There is no limit. However, when you reach 5 minutes, I will let you know with this card. I will hold it up. Can you please acknowledge this? The last 10 minutes is reserved for newcomers. The meeting is now open. Thank you.